Welcome, everybody! Remember, this is an interactive class, so you will need to stop the video to answer the questions or to do the related activities. Don't forget to pause and then continue. Shalom, friends. Shalom, Patriarch Abraham. Which book will we talk about today? The book of Ruth. In Hebrew, Ruth is spelled with the letters Resh, Vav, Tav. Ruth. This book has 4 chapters. Ruth was a foreigner. She was not an Israelite, and she was a Moabite. The Moabites were the people that lived near the Israelites. In Genesis chapter 19, verses 30 through 38, we find the original ancestor was Moab, who was actually the child of Lot, nephew of Abraham. Long ago, the judges ruled Israel. During their rule, there was a time in the land when there was not enough food to eat. A man named Elimelech left Bethlehem in Judea and moved to the country of Moab. He took his wife and his 2 sons with him. His wife was named Naomi, and his 2 sons were named Machlon and Kilion. The family traveled to Moab and lived there. Later, Naomi's husband Elimelech died, so only Naomi and her 2 sons were left. These sons married women from Moab. The name of one wife was Orpah. The name of the other wife was Ruth. Naomi and her sons lived in Moab about 10 years. Then Machlon and Kilion also died. So Naomi was left alone without her husband or her 2 sons. While Naomi was in Moab, she heard that Adonai had taken care of his people. He had given them food in Judah. So Naomi got ready to leave Moab and go back home. Naomi said to her 2 daughters-in-law, "Go back home." And she kissed them. Mwah. But Ruth wanted to go to Israel with her. She didn't want to part ways. Naomi insisted that Ruth should stay in her land. But also Ruth insisted that she wanted to go with her mother-in-law. And she declared that the people of Israel would be her people and that Elohim would be her Elohim as well. Ruth knew that Israel worshipped the Almighty Heavenly Father, and she was convinced that it was the best thing to do. The life of Ruth is an example. She was a foreigner that decided to leave her own land, customs, and gods to go to Israel with Naomi and serve Elohim and be part of his people. Ruth teaches us that the purpose of Israel was to make Elohim known to other nations. That is why Yeshua the Messiah came from Israel, because it is through him that we can get close to the Father and also we become Israel, his people. The life of Ruth was pleasing to Adonai because she decided to leave everything to become an Israelite woman. Ruth was hardworking and helped Naomi in everything. She went out to the field to glean the grain that was left so that they could have a meal. The Torah commands to make provisions for the poor, the widow, and the foreigners. One way to contribute to that provision was through the tithe, the 10% of what you earn or you have, called the maser, and the other way was through the harvesting of the grain, where the workers of the field had to leave part of the grain behind for the people in need to gather it from the ground and have some food. Elohim used a man named Boaz from the tribe of Judah to bless Ruth with food and water. When Boaz saw how Ruth was so dedicated despite being a foreigner, he called her to work with his servants. And not just that, Elohim also established some commandments for women like Ruth so they would not have to be in need. So Boaz took Ruth as his wife, and they had a child named Obed. Obed was the father of Ishai, and Ishai had a son named David. Yes, David, who was the great king of Israel. Hence Ruth, the Moabite, was the great-grandmother of King David. The Heavenly Father doesn't play favorites when people are obeying Him and doing His will. He rewards any person that He desires for his efforts, dedication, and faithfulness. Ruth became a woman of the people of Israel, and her name is recognized even today. Would you like to be used by Elohim for His purposes? Ruth teaches us to be strong and persevere, to seek His blessings in the Torah. If we ask for His help, to be faithful and walk in His works, He invites us to be part of His amazing plans. What do you think about the story of Ruth? Let's see how much you have learned. With which Hebrew letter do you spell Ruth? How many chapters does the book of Ruth have? Who was Ruth? What did Ruth say to Naomi when they were going to be separated? What did Ruth do to find food in Israel? How and why did Elohim bless Ruth? What was the name of Ruth's son? Who was an important man of Israel and Ruth's descendant? Great job! You did well! Now take some paper and write the most important things of the book of Ruth. Don't forget to write the name in Hebrew also. Hasak, Hasak, be strong and courageous. Study His word. We will see you in the next lesson.